Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final matchups of World Cup 2021. It has been an exciting nearly 1 month of action in Sochi, Russia. Players from 87 different countries. And so far, knock on wood, a total success of an event. I mean, obviously some cases of COVID, and obviously we'll see what the fallout is, but it's time for the finals. Sergei Karyakin versus Jan Krzysztof Duda. They are both already locks for the candidates cycle. Magicnus Carlsen and Vladimir Fedoseev are playing for third and fourth place. Now, I'm going to show you just 2 games today because that's all we've got, but it's good because, you know, it's not going to be a 30-minute recap like we usually do, but we're going to have a time to kind of deep dive on the games, and I'll have a moment to tell you that you're awesome and all that, and you know, it's going to be good. So, Sergei begins with d4, Duda goes for knight f6, c4, e6, we have a queen's gambit decline transposition, no Catalan, we have a traditional way of playing, and now, again, not a QGD and not a Rogozin, but dc4. This is not shocking, this is not groundbreaking, this is not even interesting at this point, because Duda has played this a lot. He played this against Magnus, and he played this in a matchup prior. I don't remember, maybe against Vidit, was it? He's played this dc4, e4, mainline bishop b4, and then here he's gone knight back to f6, rather than playing knight c3, bc3, bishop e7. Now, after this tournament, there is going to be a lot of analysis done because this is not a popular move in this position, and Duda has played it a ton. And I'm sure he's not the only player at the World Cup who's played it. When you are confident enough to play a line multiple times in an event, when people have time to prepare and they know you're going to play that, think about it, they know it's coming and they can't break it, that must tell you something. Queen a4 check, knight to c6, and here white has 2 moves as far as I know. Maybe I guess you can also argue that like bishop g5 is a move or something. I believe there's this move here, d5. If I'm not mistaken, this is a theoretical move in this position, and you just basically attack black aggressively down the center line. You play d5, you know, they take, you give a check, they have to block with the bishop or one of the bishops, and you can get a nice initiative. I mean, there's even a tricky move here like bishop to a6, which is a hilarious looking move. If ba6, then queen c6, and I mean, this is pretty uncomfortable for black because now black has to play king f8. Because knight d7 is met with this. When you get an overwhelming attack, you're actually already completely winning. So, yeah, I know about d5, but knight e5, rook b8 is the way you defend this bishop tactically, which is kind of cool. After takes, you can take on c6 with check, but actually Karyakin chooses not to do that, and basically is like, I'll wait, you know, maybe I'll take on a7 in the future. He plays bishop to g5, Duda comes back, gets out of the pin, and now queen a7 is a draw offer because after rook a8, the queen can't escape, and the players repeat moves and make a draw. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I see a grandmaster do something like this, it's like the World Cup final, playing with white, you know what your opponent is going to play, and you just force a draw in 15 moves. I'm confused. I mean, the first thing I try to do is I try to understand why they would do that. Like, maybe I don't understand something about chess. The only explanation that I have here is Karyakin is so confident that he is going to be okay with the black pieces, and he can win this in rapid and blitz. Or it doesn't matter anymore. The truth is they've both already won the grand prize, which is the candidates qualification. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But that's it. That's 4 minutes. That's all I have for you. Anyway, you feel free to psychoanalyze the decision, but anyway, that brings us to, well, the game of Magicnus Carlsen. Now, he's on the thumbnail for a reason, mostly because I had this thumbnail designed a couple of weeks ago and I haven't had a chance to use it for a video, so now I'm using it for this video. That's the life of a YouTuber, but this was actually a fun game. So Magnus begins with knight f6 and g6. He doesn't go for e6, doesn't go for d5. Magnus is like, look, man, I'm like 140 points higher rated than Fedoseev. I'm gonna try to win this game with black. Let's go. And I'm very curious what would have happened if he played knight c3. Would he have played a King's Indian or a Grunfeld? I don't know. Probably Grunfeld, because I believe Magnus played that in round 1 against the Croatian Grandmaster. But we have h4. I don't know if Fedoseev before the game mentally prepared that if this happens, I'm gonna play h4. I would imagine that is the case. Maybe he got to the board and he didn't expect to get hit with this. Maybe he thought Magnus would go for e6, d5, I don't know. And was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not going to play a game of prep. Let's just have some fun. h4, bishop g7, and now we have kind of a fusion of a King's Indian. You know, it's kind of like white just plays h4 in this position. And this move, knight to c6. Now, if you remember, there was a game, Shanklin-Svidler, which was exactly this. And Shanklin did not play the following move. He did not play d5. I believe against Svidler, he played bishop to e3, f3, and just played like normal. But d5, this looks like it should be really good for white. But in reality, this knight doesn't make any sense here if the pawn is on h3. If you just try to play f4, then this happens, and you have nobody who can attack this knight anymore. If this pawn could go backwards, that would be excellent, but that would also be illegal. And they would come and they'd put you in a jail cell. So you can't do that. So now you just have to play like a normal game, except you've already committed to h4. After h5, bishop f4, we have a position that's never been reached before. I think according to theory, bishop g5 has happened here. And the computer claims that this position is, always slightly better for white. Okay, knight f3. Fedoseev wants to get Magnus's knight out of the center. And now rather than taking with the bishop, he takes with the pawn. Okay, so what is this all about? Obviously, he will either not castle this way and castle the other way, or keep his king in the center. It's very unlikely he'll go this way. If he goes this way, he'll have to put his king like on h2 and then use the g file to attack. He will probably play queen d2 and over here, and f4, e5. What is Magnus going to do? Where is he going to break in the center? Is he going to play a6 and b5? Where are his pieces going to go? Because his light squared bishop doesn't have a lot of maneuvering that it can possibly do. c6. That's how Magnus chooses to potentially open up the position. Queen d2, and Magnus immediately takes on d5. cd5, cd5, and now king to h7. Now, king h7 does not look like a very intimidating move, but it completely shuts down bishop to h6. Fedoseev plays a4. a4 is a weird move. It's not clear what Fedoseev wants with the move a4. Maybe he wants a5, and he wants to take some space away from Magnus's queen, and maybe just kind of just not allow these pieces to move so freely. Maybe he's playing against knight d7, rerouting to the queen side. Maybe he wants b4, a5, and like rook c1. That doesn't look ridiculous to fight for control of these squares. Magnus goes for knight d7 anyway. Now, knight d7 completely forces a5, because if you're going to play a4 and still allow my knight to go here, your plan is completely idiotic. So if you play a4 and don't play a5, I mean, okay, so you have to play a5. Okay, now Magnus plays f5. While you have spent your time over here, I have played this move f5, and I'm gonna open up the position, which is another benefit of king h7, because now g6 is always stable. Rook g1 doesn't actually accomplish anything. Rook a3. Whoa, one move shy of rook a4. Obviously the legendary move. Shout out to young Elo. But this is just not, that doesn't make any sense. He saw rook a4, he didn't like it, he played rook a3. Rook a3 has a couple of ideas. Idea number one, you surrender the right to castle queenside forever. That's not an idea, that's just a byproduct. Really, you're defending your knight, and you have some ideas in the future to potentially just do something on the third rank. You don't know what you're going to do necessarily. Maybe you'll go b4, maybe, you're unpinning yourself. It's a very flexible move. Magnus plays knight e5. Okay, the fake out to go to the queenside worked, and now he's moving to the middle. He doesn't have any forward movement yet, but upon f e4, he will accomplish something. This trade is idiotic for white. Actually, both captures are good for black, so you don't want to leave black with the dark squared bishop, right? So bishop back to e3, and Magnus plays f4. Now, that's a computer idea, okay? This is a very common idea in many positions, but the thing is that if you wait with black, if you play like, I don't know, bishop d7, white will play f4. White will then kick your knight out of the center, maybe even take it completely, and then try to either attack you with h5. If you take like this, then white just has a very solid center. So black plays f4, and it's just a pawn. It's just a free pawn. Like rook f4, queen f4, that's just a free pawn, right? So rook, he just gives the pawn away. What does he get in return? He gets a file. The rook now pressures the entire file forever. Very common idea nowadays by engines to just give the pawn away. And it's seen in many positions. There's a very famous AlphaZero game where the pawn was sacrificed like that on f4 in a Grunfeld. Bishop d7, knight d1 is trying to bring this rook into the party, maybe knight e3, maybe knight c4. And here Magnus Carlsen plays the most exotic move of the game by far, rook takes bishop. That's a shocking move. He just gives away the rook completely, takes control of the diagonal, and now again, what is the move that white wants to play? f4, what is the only way to prevent that? The only way, queen f8. What is going on? So Fedoseev is up 3 points of material. 3 points. He has a rook and a pawn for a bishop. But relative value of a piece as the game is going on, that bishop is a 4.5 point bishop, okay, at least. That bishop is a beast. This bishop, this knight, right? And then you start talking about mobility of white's pieces. Who is moving where and how? The only way you're going to play f4 is if you get control of that square. Knight e3, knight g2 starts coming to mind. Maybe you play rook c3 and b4, so you shut down the queen side. All right, what does Fedoseev do? He plays knight e3. Now the bishop lands on f4, so the queen is booted. And the queen is booted to g2 because of this, then, well, like let's say rook c8, for example. And if you play knight g2, then you get absolutely slaughtered. So you cannot put your pieces in a little cage. So he decides to put his queen on g2. Magnus plays rook c8. And now rook c3 comes along, and he trades. Despite being down 3 points of material, he trades the rooks. And now, after plugging the dark squared hole, he goes to c3. Who is going to guard that pawn? Well, the pawn's going to take care of itself. Now, you can summon the king. That's very brave. I don't know how good that is. Pawn decides to guard itself. b5. Now, en passant, of course, if c takes b5, there's probably some checkmate here that's coming. So you have to play ab6, ab6. And what exactly does white do now? Because white is still up 3 points of material, but it's equal. The computer's saying 0.00. How is... Okay. Queen g1. Queen to a8. Here comes the queen. a3, a5, a1. King f1. Fedoseev goes to skedaddle the king to g2. Magnus like, where are you going? You leaving me? Why you want to go over here? I'm going to take the bishop. No. You don't get to play with knight to g2. Now, folks, this might be the most depressing assortment of pieces ever. Like, Fedoseev cannot move any pawn. He cannot move any piece. Queen a1 check. Knight back. I mean, come look at this. Queen b2. And this is the part where Magnus probably gets up. He, like, walks away. You know, he lets Fedoseev sit and think, and he's just like, dude, what are you going to play? You got any moves? Good luck. Knight back to g2. And here, in a shocking turn of events, Magnus Carlsen opted to repeat moves. Just kidding. No, he didn't. Queen a1 check, knight e1. I'm so sorry, that was mean. But, you know, it's got to be a little bit more exciting, right? Queen c1 and queen d2. He's just crawling. Look at this zigzag technique. This is the super GM. Boop, 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 boop. Just getting closer, getting closer. You want to play knight g2 again? Let's see what happens if you play knight g2 with my queen right here. Well, then I go knight d3. Now you're officially out of moves. Literally, you cannot move a single piece. And once you take, here, 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 mate, on a4, while your pieces just have a smoke break on the balcony. Yeah. So queen g2. I just played king g7. You know what I think is about to happen? King f8, king e8, king d8, king c8, king b7, king a6, king a5, king b4, king c3, like this. Imagine? Fedoseev's like, I can't be disrespected like that. I gotta actually start to do something. Magnus is like, no, I'm actually gonna go do that. Queen h1. And, you know, the craziest thing is, if Magnus actually wanted to disrespect Fedoseev, I actually have a feeling like he could have done that. The thing is, when the king gets to a6, you're going to get hit with a discovered check, c5. So instead of that, he plays e6. So he's going to chip away at the center. He does. And now he's granted one of the two diagonals. He gets granted f5, so he gets a little bit closer. The king gets a little bit closer, and the knight comes back to d7. Why? Why did the knight go back to d7? By the way, the knight goes back to d7 rather than taking the rook, because the bishop is worth more than the rook. And you're worth more than both of those things. Now he takes, and he just comes right back. And it's funny, because if you look at the position optically, 15 moves ago, like on move 26, like right here, not much has changed for white. He played on a 4x4 board, whereas the board is 8x8. That's what Nepo tweeted. He's like, it turns out it's harder to play chess on a 4x4 when, you know, the entire board is 8x8. And he's not wrong. And Magnus, honestly, to the naked eye, did not do a whole lot. I mean, he just kind of got a little bit closer. But Fedoseev he's just like, I've had enough. I have no moves, and I'm slowly running out of pieces. And Fedoseev is a 2,700 rated grandmaster. Look what Magnus Carlsen did to the poor man. I told you today's recap is pretty short, but Magnus Carlsen wins just an absolutely unbelievable game. I mean, like, what do you even, like, f4, rook f4? Are you kidding me? And just queen f8? And for the rest of the game, white just had no moves? Just undeniable greatness. So tomorrow we have a chance to finish the World Cup. I don't think the final is best of 4 games anymore. It used to be out of 4. I don't think it's 4 games, but I'm gonna check before I sign off. It looks like it's only 2 games. And I will see you all tomorrow for potentially the conclusion of the World Cup, but if not, then we will need an extra day of tie breaks. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow. Get out of here.